We're just on the way now up to the depot to pick the tractor up. It's all loaded on the trailer, all ready to go, and then we'll hook up and we'll make our way to Bury St Edmunds. Heavy duty trailer with 3 axles, and it's capable of carrying the tractor and the plough, which weighs approximately 2 tonnes. The vehicle is obviously off-road vehicle, 4-wheel drive, and what more can I say? It's a very good piece of kit, very expensive, but if you want to take part in these competitions, you have to have the equipment to get there. As you can see, the handle's a bit hard to wind. We've got to repair that tomorrow. Most important thing is to plug the electrics in. So we've got indicators on the rear of the trailer. This is a security wire. You can see the cable there, it runs to the braking system. Should the trailer become detached, that cable will pull the brakes on and stop the trailer running away. The event today is being run by the Suffolk Ploughing Society, and it includes some qualifying for the British Championships, which are held in October. And I'm going along. I'm not a top professional ploughman. I get occasional wins if I'm lucky, but I think the object is taking part. And there'll be some 50 to 60 ploughmen there today, and you know, it's a good day out. We'll now put the rear point on. Without that, we're not going to plough. That just slips on there, like that. That's a cutting point, and you put the pin in. We'll give it a little bit of persuasion. I have got a hammer, which I'll put in a minute. Right, that's secured. So far, so good. These are my sight poles, and I put them across the field to try and attempt to plough in a straight line on the first furrow. It doesn't always work, but with the sight poles, there's no excuse, and it's all down to the person operating the tractor at the time. So we do our best to get as straight as we can. You do lose marks if you're crooked. I feel cluttered with the coat. No, it's going to be too windy, isn't it?
name's Robert Flack. I organised this, and I'm also judging ploughing as well. I'm judging the classic class today. As you can see from the sheet, it's all done in different categories. We start with the opening, which needs to be clean cut and even both sides, and then we go on to the closing of the ridge, which needs to be level and flat as possible and nice even furrows, and then the general work is even, straight, level. Not matter today too much, but if you've got stubble and that, it needs to be buried, any trash buried and that. And then a vital part is the finish, which needs to be straight, clean and well cut out. Been ploughing matches for over 150 years in various parts of the country. This one, I think, I don't know, 20 odd years I think, this one, yeah.
Classic. Third place, David Bolton. And second place, Kevin Reed. And here you just listened to Richard Granger.
This tractor's come in and the clutch is faulty, it's slipping, and I'm holding the clutch plate up now, which is completely worn out. It's a major operation to do this job, and you have to split the tractor in half. So the engine goes that way to get access to the bell housing on the gearbox. It's a large pressure plate bolts onto the flywheel, but and then the clutch goes onto the shaft up inside there, and when it's together it pushes the clutch onto the flywheel to drive the tractor. And what's been happening, that's been slipping round and not gripping onto the flywheel. So the only thing to do is replace the whole unit. All the wiring has to come off, the wiring looms, everything has to be disconnected and put there. The power steering pipes, they all have to be disconnected. The stabilising bars have to be removed from the front axle, along with the steering rod there, that has to come off. And once they're all done, we jack the engine up, we put the trolley under, we block it up with timber, as you can see, and we wheel the whole thing away. It sounds easy, but it can be a difficult job. When you put the new plate on, and everything has to be lined up perfectly to when you go, so the shaft on the end here enters into the flywheel. So it has to be very very precise to do that. And I haven't got one to hand now, but we use a clutch aligning tool, which is tapered, which you put the aligning tool in there, and it holds the clutch in one place so it goes on the shaft. And When all that's done, we then wheel the tractor back, and with some levers or things like that, we can usually get the thing back together. Then you bolt it up with large bolts all the way around the bow housing until it's tight. Then comes the problem. You've got to remember where all the wiring goes. It's fairly self-explanatory, but all this has to be put back in place. You can see a rod here. That's the throttle rod or the accelerator rod that has to fix onto the fuel pump. That has to be all connected, and various other things, bits and pieces, which we put in and we keep separate, the bolts, the bearings, everything. And really that's all there is to it. But you're looking to change a clutch at 2 days' work usually. I'm estimating in the last 10 years I've had 20 tractors through here. That includes engine rebuilds, gearbox rebuilds. I've maintained the hydraulic systems on them. Various things. I also spray paint as well, so I paint them once I've restored them. I then paint them in here as well. And I'm self-taught sprayer. I've never been taught how to spray, but you know, they all say you learn by your mistakes as you go along, and I've made mistakes over the years, but I've learned an awful lot, and I tend now, touch wood, not to make quite so many mistakes as I used to in the early days. Well, the plans for the inside, as I said before, it's a working tractor, so you can see the wear and tear on the seat and things like that. And I don't think the owner's got any intention to restore it any more than that. It's a working tractor. It's used every day when it's at the riding school where it belongs, and you know, it's wear and tear after some 40 years. This tractor's over 40 years old. But when we bring something like this to restore, we would have that seat recovered. We'd have all the cab roof. We'd have all the linings put in, and we'd clean the whole thing up. We'd paint, we'd remove the cab and completely restore it.
Van der Parcel, 54 years old, grew up in Suffolk and moved up to Cambridgeshire 30 years ago, and moved up here because fell in love with a man, basically. I don't mind. It's nice for him to get out and have something to do. Gets him out from sleeping in the chair. Nothing really worries me. He knows, as long as he's sensible, how to load things and unloading. So he's pretty sensible like that. When it's cold and wet is what I dislike about the matches, because you're out there for all day and you can get very cold and very wet. Best things about them, you see other people you know, look at other people's work, and also you can learn how to do things by talking to the guys doing the ploughing. So yeah, sometimes I go with him, so he's got somebody to talk to on his way home, and on the way there I've helped him arrange the matches. Basically that's it.
I was born in 1943 in a village called Orwell in South Cambridgeshire. From a very early age, my interest in farming came because my father was a blacksmith, and he used to go around the farms in the late 40s, early 50s, shoeing the horses. During that period, tractors were, most farmers then had got their first tractors, so my interest in tractors came 6, 7 years old. Then I'd done the silly thing, I went motorcycle racing, and the pay that I got from my farm wasn't enough to keep the bikes going. So I then went long distance lorry driving in the UK, and I drove the heavy trucks in the UK for some 30 years. I had nearly 10 years racing, and just got bumps and bruises everywhere, and I also used to compete in time and observed trials. And whilst I was competing in there, in one of those trials, two of us tangled up and hit one another more or less head on, and unfortunately my leg went through the front wheel of the other motorcycle, and it done very, very serious injuries to my leg, resulting in me losing my Achilles tendon and ended up with the right leg 1.25 inches shorter than the left one. Not too much upsets me on the ploughing. Sometimes I'll have a bit of a moan. For an example, if I get a second or third or first place, when another ploughman will come up and say, I don't know how you got that, I ploughed better than you. And another little thing with all of us is, if the organising committee use somebody that's known to all of us, so if we know the judges personally, local people, they will sometimes judge the person on the tractor rather than the actual ploughing, which, you know, does cause a lot of comment. It's nice if the judges can come from another county, so, you know, you're not known to them, and then I think you get a fairer result at the end of the day. The grandchildren are not old enough really to come onto the ploughing field, but I'm sure and I'm hopeful, we've got a grandson, that he could well be interested as he gets a little older. But no, I get support from all the family, you know. I just go off on my own weekends, and the family get together, and if I'm not there, well, send my apologies on, but the ploughing, I'm going to do the ploughing, you know, I can't change the date of that, so we just go and do it. So you do win prizes, and you know, I've had a very good season this season. You talk about the trading and everything. That was for first place in my class at Hagnam in Cambridgeshire. Competed in 6 matches this year. I've had 2 wins and a second place, so I'm quite satisfied. I'm quite happy with that. Win or lose, if I enjoy the day and I leave the field happy with what I've done, then I'm happy, and I've had a good day. The animals, we've also got 6 vintage tractors where during the summer months we attend steam rallies, vintage vehicle gatherings. This year nobody was allowed to put shows on because of social distancing, so no steam rallies happened this season. In July I organised with others a tractor road run, and we travelled 33 miles, and we visited 13 villages in South Cambridgeshire, and we collected £3,500 for the NHS charity. So well, that's what this thing's about, and the vintage tractors and the ploughing matches, we work for charity as much as we can. Other interests now, gardening and anything that's going on in the countryside really. Well, the COVID-19 has affected the competitions. Many organisers have chosen not to run the match this year. Others have, but it's usually run just with the ploughman on the field, no spectators, no catering facility, and no prize given at the end. So it then keeps social distancing to the government guidelines, and the results of the match are usually sent to you either on Facebook or telephone call or messenger or email or whatever after the event. So the social side of it is gone completely this year. You know, you just turn up on the field, do your best, load up and come home.